Hey friends, I'm home. Here I am. It feels weirdly time warpy to be sitting here, and it sort of evokes the memory of the last time I was here doing my final video post or two before getting on the road. Really drives home this whole time is an illusion thing. As I was just, I'm sure that you've had that. All of us have had that experience of like you're driving home or you're arriving home after some time away, and instantly that from the familiarity of the routine of going home kind of kicks in, and it's almost like we go back in time. It's like as I was driving home, I'm like going through the motions of the last couple of turns before I arrived at the house, and I had this sense of like, it was like I was remembering it's like I was transported back to the last time I was here doing that before the entire Houston chapter of my life and the entire experience of all the work that I just did. And it's like, was it a dream? Was it all a dream? And that's, I think that's just, it's natural in some ways. It's the nature of experience. I listened to a really great book. It's by Sadhguru. Can't tell, I'm down a Sadhguru rabbit hole right now. He wrote a book called Karma, and it's really a beautiful book. It's a really sort of intricate look at how karma works, and how he describes karma as essentially being memory and what we are, our personality, even our body. He describes it as being essentially memory either imprinted on the mind or memory imprinted on the body, which there's vastly more memory imprinted on the body. And I'm probably 1/3 of the way through the book, or not even, because I ended up also reconnecting with some friends and family on the drive. Just had a kind of great, it was one of those journeys. I love a long road trip, because there's something about that transportation time and actually seeing every inch of the journey with my own eyes, and then arriving at the new place. There's still something magical. It still kind of feels like I launch the journey, I go through a wormhole, and then I emerge at the other end of the wormhole. But at least I witnessed the whole wormhole. Whereas I get on a plane and that wormhole just kind of, it might as well be magic to my reptilian brain's capacity to understand what is happening when I'm flying through the air in a canister at 600 miles an hour. It might as well be magic. So there's something about a road trip where I can digest that. And I'm just kind of appreciating that landing here after that experience. But this book is really kind of just giving me some really nice insight. It's like it's flashing up insights into patterns, and like this idea that everything is memory, and therefore if we're trying to dissolve our karma, which essentially that's our job. If we're on a spiritual path, our job is to become liberated from our imprinting, from our past, because we as humans have the unique capacity to be free, to live consciously, and to live by choice. In other words, to not live out of compulsion. But that's only a possibility. That's not necessarily how every human being lives, because we do have this massive amount of imprinting. And what I talk about as patterns or habits or even what would be scientifically described as genetics and hereditary traits can also be seen as cosmic memory. And this isn't the first time I've encountered this concept. This is something that many philosophers and various kind of thought leaders that I've read and been interested in over the years, they've framed it this way. This is not a new way of framing it for me, but I am appreciating Sadhguru's take, just coming from the yogic tradition, and the it's you realize that yoga is a science. It's not a fitness program. I mean, not that a fitness program can't be a science as well, but the yogic tradition is a science. It's so intricate and it's so precise, and it's like studying molecular biology, or any other. I'm just randomly selecting that because it sounds like a complicated science to me. But just so, and I think this book is just scratching the surface of that. He's not trying to be exhaustive, and in fact, he specifically says that. But it's really fun to kind of get inside some of the distinctions between different types of karma, and karma in which our volition is involved. In other words, karma that we can have a choice. Our action, the way we choose to act, affects that karma. And karma that is where our volition does not play a role. He basically delineates it into 4 categories where human volition is neither has an effect nor really it's bestowed upon us in a way. And then 4 categories of karma where our volition does play a role, in which we can actively exert an influence over. And I think what was showing up, one thing that really, so this is something that struck me. It's something I'd never mentioned on my post, but that was a very kind of like powerful experience, a momentary powerful experience that I have not really talked about. But the day after I meditated all night, basically, I switched between meditation and doing qigong in order to stay awake. I was afraid that I would have just fallen asleep if I'd kept trying to just strictly sit still through the night. But it amounted to a meditative experience of really kind of almost 12 hours, I would say. I started around 7:30 or 8, and I went until about 7 o'clock, 7:30 the next morning. I had a phone call in there to Katie, but otherwise I was kind of in it. And I talked about how that experience really felt like it woke me up. I was feeling pretty lethargic the day before, and so for whatever reason, on the day that I'm feeling lethargic, this guru pops up onto my YouTube and says, "Don't go to sleep tonight." And I'm like, "Are you kidding?" But I feel like luckily it was possible for me to do that. It felt possible. I suppose it would always be possible, but it felt possible because of my circumstances. I really kind of realized, oh, I can do this. So I did it. And the next day I had a show that evening, and I took a nap in the day. I knew I was pretty tired after that, and I knew I didn't want to go into a 3-hour performance and not be rested enough to do my job, or to somehow compromise performance. So I took a little nap. But there was a moment in the show, I was playing, I don't know, the fourth song, the I Want song, and somewhere towards the end, somewhere towards the end of the song, I think, I had this experience of, it was like a huge burden was lifted off of me. It was almost like something that, it was almost like if I always, even if I'm buck naked, I'm wearing a coat. There's a certain coat or some sort of wrapping that's around my body all the time. And it felt like, and I'm not saying that that's conscious, but I'm saying the experience I had was, it was like a coat that I'm not even aware I'm wearing suddenly peeled off, and I felt free. I felt completely, for a moment, I felt completely, like, physically and psychologically free. And it was a weird experience, because it was like, suddenly I was like, it was almost disconcerting to feel that free. It was almost like, as that happened, I was like, whoa, isn't there something I should be holding on to? Or isn't, like, it was a moment of like, just sort of like, almost like being disoriented for not having this burden. And it was in the flow of the show, and it happened very quickly. And as soon as I sort of like, psychologically what happened was, I was like, oh shit, did I forget something? Like, did I not bring a prop? Am I missing something? It was like this moment of like, do I not have what I need? But it wasn't, but I think it was coming from the fact that there was something very familiar, this sort of like sense of weight or burden that's very familiar to me, had peeled off for just a few moments. And it was really interesting to watch my mind go, what the hell? I'm not carrying my burden around. Something must be wrong. Just the unfamiliarity of that, and how I responded inwardly. That's really interesting, and not to mention humbling to recognize. But and then and I was in the flow of the show, so I got kind of carried into the next bit, and I kind of realized, oh no, I'm not. There's nothing wrong. I'm not missing anything. But what struck me about that is that I had just spent literally 10 or 11 hours in a meditative state, doing qigong, letting my system, my psychic system, my physical system, my emotional system, letting them kind of sit with energy, and more than anything, release energy. I mean, I talked a little bit about how much movement I felt in myself during that experience. It felt like constant movement. And so, all of this was kind of, I was being reminded of it today when I thought of, as I was listening to Sadhguru, and I'm thinking about karma and releasing memory and letting go of patterns, not necessarily first recognizing those patterns, just seeing. Again, we're not really trying to get rid of patterns. That doesn't really work. But we're trying to just see them for what they are. And so that has kind of been showing up for me, because it really, what it signaled to me, and if I needed any more reminders about this, but it just signaled to me how powerful the practice of meditation truly is, and what's really going on when we engage in that. What's really what are we really doing? And definitely spurs me to especially as I arrive back home. I've had a wonky schedule in Houston because I've been up so late doing the show every night. It's not my usual routine here at home. And as I kind of re-enter this space and this context, it's great to have come off of an experience that really inspires me to get back to that, because I think it's going to be immensely useful. And I also look forward to kind of continuing to just deepen my understanding and deepen my recognition of what karma is all about. There's a certain kind of spiritual maturity that I hear in Sadhguru's voice and in his insights, a willingness to really take seriously the possibility of genuine freedom. And that's always a wake-up call. Whenever we're around someone who's done that, it's always a wake-up call, because it's an imperative that every single human soul knows how to resonate with. We all know that is possible for us. We all know that's in some ways it's the goal of all human life. It's a goal of all human spiritual life, is to experience ourselves in an unencumbered, free state. For we choose our own destiny, we choose our own physical life, we choose our own spiritual life. We truly are free beings. So I think anytime we see someone who's been through radical acts of transcendence, it's like a spark. A spark goes off. So it's really nice to be receiving that, and to feel like I'm integrating that as I arrive home again. So that's where I am, folks. A lot coming through. Maybe I'll have to start doing more than one post a day so I can process all this. But thanks for watching. So much love. I appreciate you. I look forward to the next chapter as we kick back into home life. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.